Can I ask a question about the speaker's comments this morning? She said, among other things, that she realized that when during these briefings, 2002, 2003, she concluded that the problem was the policy and that it needed to be changed by electing Democratic Congress, Democratic President, and now that that's happened, the policy has been changed. Could you respond, please?
Yeah, I find it quite unbelievable that the Speaker of the House believes that politics comes before national security. In 2002, she was the ranking member of the Intelligence Committee. That's a position that I hold today. From 2003, when she received the second, or her staff received the second briefing, to 2004, she was the minority leader of the House. And what I heard her say, and I was quite taken aback by it when she said it, is politics are more important than national security. So I spent my time, rather than trying to influence this policy, I took my time focused on politics to elect a Democrat majority. I think that is that's a very dangerous precedent. You know, when I was appointed to the Intelligence Committee, when I was appointed chairman in 2004 by Speaker Hastert, and then appointed as the ranking member by the current minority leader, John Boehner, they made it very, very clear that I was representing them on this important job, and it was my job to keep them fully informed and to develop the right policy to keep America safe. And you would think that in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, that we would be focused on making sure that we had the right policy in place and not worried about the next election, whether it's 2002, 2004, 2006. So basically what the Speaker has said, that up until she became the Speaker in 2006, it was all about politics and forget about the policy. I can tell you, as the ranking member today, we've already taken, and even in the last session of Congress, we spent a lot of time focused on policy, making sure that we get the policy right and recognize that there is another time and another place to deal with the politics. You don't deal with the politics when you're the ranking member or the Speaker of the House or the minority leader. Politics doesn't come first when it comes to national security. That may explain why we've had some of the problems that we've had.
I want to add to that we have taken steps in the Gang of Four and in the Intelligence Committees to stop things, planned actions that we felt were too risky, unwise, or unsound. Obviously, I'm not going to go into what it was, but we know that we can have an impact. There are many things that could have been done. Bringing in the leadership, even going to the floor of the House using the protection of the speech and debate clause to raise questions about it and to raise objections. There are efforts that you can make in the appropriations process to stop that. There are a whole range of actions, and she did not take them. Peter and I, whether it's a Republican or a Democratic administration, if they're doing things that we think make our country less safe, like closing Gitmo without a plan, we're going to speak out about them. Whether if it's in open session, we'll do that, or whether it is in classified session, we will do that. We are not here to say that we want to see the Gitmo detainees brought to the United States and allow the voters of America in 2012 to act on that. We think national security requires action now. That's why we're talking about Gitmo. That's why we're talking about other things.
Senator Bond, the Senate Intelligence Committee is reviewing the interrogation techniques. I think the House Intelligence Committee is also. You now have a situation in which both Speaker Pelosi and former Senator Bob Graham have said they were specifically told waterboarding was not being used in the September 2002 briefings. Speaker Pelosi said specifically they were misled because we now know from reports that a detainee had been waterboarded 83 times beforehand. Have you talked to the chairman about inviting Bob Graham to come testify, Richard Shelby, and on the House side, will Pelosi come testify? Porter Goss about what they were told back then? Because it's a serious allegation that she has lodged that they were specifically misled about what was being used.
We will determine our hearing schedule when we get the information that we are seeking from the intelligence community and specifically the CIA. We know that Porter Goss has been on record contradicting what the Speaker now says. We have seen what the CIA notes reflect, and they obviously, the briefing occurred after one of the detainees had been waterboarded, and the CIA notes indicate that they were being briefed on what was being used and was to be used. When we were finally briefed in on it, the committee, the full committee was briefed not just on what had happened, but at that briefing they told us what was going to be used, what kinds of techniques were to be used, and I believe that is the purpose of holding those briefings. The briefings are not to be held to talk about things that aren't going to be used. That doesn't provide you any useful insight. So I will discuss with the chair, Senator Feinstein, who is to be called, and we will make that determination after we've reviewed the information.
Congressman Hoekstra, Senator Bonaparte, I'm just wondering, you've both been through briefings like this. You weren't obviously at this specific briefing. What Speaker Pelosi is saying is that the CIA briefers lied to her. They told her specifically that waterboarding was not being used.
Go ahead.
Do you find it plausible that the CIA would come in and tell congressional leaders something that was blatantly untrue?
I find it very difficult to believe that would happen. I will tell you what the context of those briefings are like. You know, you know that you're going to get some highly classified information that is about keeping America safe. You know that right away because they're telling you, we only want to meet with you and Jane or you and Silver, and staff may or may not be included. But the other thing that I will tell you at the end of this meeting, there's always the opportunity for two things. Do you have any additional questions? Do you need any more information? Do you need another briefing? Either they offer that to us, or before they go out of the room, you got the right to kind of grab them by the lapels and say, hey, wait a minute, before you leave, there's more information that I want to have, and I want you to prepare this information for us and come back. And the second question that needs to be answered before people walk out of the room is we are either asked directly, are we okay to move forward on this? And if that question is not asked, if there's a policy or an action that's being contemplated that I don't agree with, it's my responsibility at that point in time to say, I don't agree with where you are going. I'm going to bring this up with either Speaker Hassett or Minority Leader Boehner, because that's why I'm in this job, to represent them, and I'm very concerned about the direction that you are going, and I don't want it to happen. And I've done this. I've met with Leader Boehner on cases like this, and when he and I are in agreement that when he and I are in agreement that we disagree with the policy that's being carried out or being proposed, he's provided me, or he and I together have gone to the National Security Advisor or to the President of the United States and voiced our displeasure and disagreement with the policy, and have gotten the policy changed. Those are just some of the avenues that we have. But the meetings are very much, do you have all the information that you need to fully understand the situation or the strategy that we have outlined, and do we agree or disagree with the direction that is being proposed?
And the other point is, these are briefings for things. I want to add one more point. These are usually briefings about things that are about to be done. They don't come in and tell us, well, here's a technique that we're not going to use. They come in to tell us these are techniques that we're going to be used, or this is what we're going to do, or in some instances, what we briefed you on 3 months ago has been done, and this is the result.
Senator Martin, to follow up on something that you said, about these notes. The speaker did agree today that she thought that the notes should be released. And I believe, Mr. Hoekstra, you've indicated you've seen some of the notes on these briefings.
I've asked for them to be released and released publicly.
Are you saying that there's something specifically in those notes at odds with the speaker's argument today that she was deliberately misled at that briefing and not told that waterboarding was used?
I think that you look at the briefings and you see what was laid. You look at the notes and you see what was laid out. I hope they will be laid out.
Yeah, and I asked for I read these documents last week Thursday. I went out to the CIA and reviewed the materials. I believe those materials should be declassified and made available to the public. We are also preparing a broader document release request from the CIA. Perhaps the materials that they developed before the briefings were conducted to show the intent and the extent of what would be in those briefings. You know, there appear to be a lot of people that are confused about what happened in September of 2002, what happened in February of 2003, and we think it would be helpful to clear up that confusion. And so by getting these documents and declassifying these documents, we think it would be very, very helpful.
Do you believe Speaker Pelosi told the truth today, that she was misled?
I can't make that judgment. I was not in that meeting. I know that there were people who were in that meeting who have a very different recollection of what occurred in that meeting, what was told, to what extent, and those types of things. Only the people that were in the meeting know today, and what I want to do is, I think what Senator Bond wants to do is, we want to get more of that information, the memorandum of what happened, you know, the notes that were written after the meetings took place. We're now also preparing a document request for the materials that were prepared in anticipation of the meetings that were held.
Are you allowed to tell us, based on your, just a yes or no, based on your reading of those notes on Thursday at Langley, do you believe that she told the truth?
I'm not going to make that judgment based on those materials. I think there's a lot of other information that needs to be available to us to get into that. But I think, you got to also remember why I think the senator and I started moving in this direction. We moved in this direction when the president released the legal documentation 3 weeks ago, the legal justification, and there became an outcry that the attorneys at the Justice Department, that they either be prosecuted or they be disbarred. Then there were others, and the president said he wasn't for it, but there were others that were then calling for people within the CIA to be prosecuted. And you know what? That's just flat out wrong. For us to start with the attorneys and for us to start with the frontline CIA employees. Congress was briefed. If we're going to have a full debate about how this policy was developed and implemented, it should begin with the policymakers. That includes the executive branch, but it also includes Congress. So before we go anywhere else, let's start with where the policy was developed. It was America's policy developed in coordination between the executive branch and Congress.